welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's Wednesday, April 10th. You're watching News 2 on via Channel 4 and 504. I'm April Knight. Topping our stories tonight, St. Croix residents may not see performances by students in the Educational Complex Marching Band for a while. The space that the band meets at has become unbearable for the students and has even caused some of the school's musical instruments to become unusable. The longtime band instructor at the complex hopes that the situation can be remedied quickly so that students can go back to what they love doing. Stephanie Brown has more.
Classes were in session today at the St. Croix Educational Complex, but music and band students receive instruction in a non-traditional setting because of sweltering humidity conditions.
The classroom currently doesn't have an AC unit, and it's been actually like this for about 2 or more years now.
Kevry Hendricks has been a teacher at the St. Croix Educational Complex for 12 years. Mr. Hendricks informed that the impact of Hurricanes Irma and Maria added to the humidity issues in the classroom, but prior to the storm, the AC unit had not been fully operational.
The AC unit was having multiple issues for many years. It was at half capacity, and then after the storms Irma and Maria hit with the loss of power, once we received back power, the units were non-functioning.
Humid conditions in the classroom has caused some damages to string instruments. However, ongoing piping issues at the school have affected the program's progression.
Also been experiencing a lot of water issues. Over the span of I think about 5 years, the program has had multiple floods in between the band and the choir room from some old piping that just continues, I guess, due to pressure, has been continuing to leak, and it has affected a large amount of our inventory of instruments. A lot of them are damaged, and we're trying to receive some funds to also get some replacements, and that's also a part of this process as well.
Educational Complex Marching Band is often called upon to perform for many community activities. Even this upcoming weekend, the band was scheduled to perform. However, without a conducive environment, the students aren't able to focus during rehearsals.
So 5 days a week I run different programs. Mondays and Thursdays is concert band, Tuesday is a jazz combo, Wednesday is the percussion section, and Friday is the full marching band contingent, which also involves auxiliary components such as dancers, such as cheerleaders, majorettes, and color guard. And they are also a part of the entire global program. So on Fridays it's extremely difficult because everybody is housed under one roof.
Mr. Hendricks exclaimed that he is aware of the many financial challenges the Department of Education is going through, but until the AC unit is fixed, the band cannot rehearse nor perform for any community engagements. For News 2, I'm Stephanie Shalana Brown.
Educational Complex is just one of the many infrastructures that are still recovering from the 2017 hurricanes. Mr. Hendricks, the band instructor at the complex, is a trumpeter and also serves as a staff sergeant in the 73rd Army Band of the Virgin Islands National Guard. Hendricks has been the official bugler for the State of the Territory address for 17 years. With this Calypso band fusion, he has won 6 St. Croix Festival Road March competitions. Well, in just a matter of days, FEMA's Sheltering and Temporary Essential Power Program, or STEP, locally known as Emergency Home Repairs VI, is ending. The program has been a huge part of the hurricane recovery process, serving roughly 7,200 homes and costing the Federal Emergency Management Agency some $280 million so far. FEMA has funded the program in the last 20 months since the 2017 storms. Its deadline is on Monday, April 15th. And now the deadline has been extended before for a few months at a time, but this recent extension is only 15 days, and it's looking like the program is bound to end on Monday. What that means is that any new work done after April 15th will not be reimbursable by FEMA, and that's how this program has been going in the last 20 months. Work is done on a home, invoices are submitted, inspections are conducted, and then FEMA releases the funding. With the STEP program coming to an end, the Virgin Islands Island's government is turning to community disaster block grant funding through Housing and Urban Development, which has approved roughly $1 billion in long-term recovery funds so far. About $90 million of that money is meant for housing. Virgin Islands Housing and Finance Authority will be administering that program just like it did the FEMA-funded STEP. Here's more.
All the inspection data, pictures, and engineering reports collected from the EHR-VI program will be transferred to the CDBG-DR program so that residents will not have to be subjected to unnecessary intrusions by inspectors. In the coming weeks, the CDBG-DR program will be making outbound calls to residents whose homes were too damaged to be served by the EHR-VI program. Homes too damaged to be served by the program will be the CDBG-DR program's first priority. A significant difference between the HUD-funded CDBG-DR program and the FEMA-funded programs is that HUD reimburses based on approved invoices, while FEMA reimburses based on proof of payment. This means the HUD difference will increase cash flow and decrease the payment processing time while simultaneously allowing for detailed auditing to protect taxpayer-funded relief dollars. The territory is working closely with HUD and has the necessary processes in place to begin drawing the funds this month in April.
We'll keep you updated. Well, another deadline looms for the territory, which Delegate to Congress Stacey Plaskett brought up this week in Congress. She called it the Medicaid Collapse, and the territory is bracing itself. The VI is currently enjoying a 100% Medicaid reimbursement rate, so anyone eligible for Medicaid can come to, say, the territory's hospitals for an eligible service, and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS, will reimburse the hospitals 100% of the cost. This has been especially important in the aftermath of the storms, but in September 2019, the reimbursement rate is slated to revert back to 55-45, where 45% is the local government's share. In a speech earlier this week, Delegate Plaskett reminded her colleagues of the impending fiscal cliff. She also appealed to her Republican colleagues to, quote-unquote, be on the right side of history when it comes to health care for all Americans. Here's more.
Basic health care coverage for 23 million everyday Americans and thousands of people in my district of the Virgin Islands is at risk of being undermined because our friends across the aisle fail to have the same urgency about these impending calamities. Virgin Islanders are at a critical junction. We face a daunting and devastating Medicaid cliff on September 30th, 2019, an absolute collapse in Medicaid. Our Republican colleagues continue the work to dismantle health care for millions of Americans right now. They voted to eliminate protection for pre-existing conditions and to strip the health care coverage. Last weekend, the Trump administration escalated its attack on Americans' health care by supporting a federal judge's ruling that the entire Affordable Care Act should be thrown out. Today, I ask my Republican colleagues, what side will history find you on? Protecting American families or the need to protect partisan interests? A demonstration of this was the Republican-controlled Senate's failed attempt last week, or failure last week, to advance a disaster aid package that includes billions for American families still recovering from 2017 natural disaster. Be on the right side of history.
Meanwhile, the Water and Power Authority says repairs have been completed to a ruptured 24-inch water main along the St. Thomas waterfront. That water main burst on Sunday, if you remember, ejecting silt and sediment into the Charlotte-Amalie Harbor and causing a water outage that affected downtown and surrounding areas. According to WAPA, repairs were completed on Monday night. However, if you are still experiencing water service interruptions, you could contact WAPA at 774-3552, option 4, or email communications@viwapa.vi. Coming up next, VITEMA and FEMA's disaster preparedness outreach, plus what you can expect from the 2019 Literary Fest on St. Croix when we come back. Welcome back. As we get closer to the 2019 hurricane season, federal and local agencies want to make sure that we're prepared. This week, the Federal Emergency Management Agency is teaming up with FEMA and Kmart in reaching out to residents and help them with disaster preparedness. FEMA and FEMA set up shop at the big Kmart in Tutu Park Mall, engaging Kmart customers and handing out much needed information. According to the FEMA and FEMA representatives, they want to stress the whole community approach when it comes to preparedness. Here's more.
FEMA and FEMA is collaborating to build a whole community approach to a culture of preparedness. So that's really our purpose here, is to basically educate the public. We'll be at the big Kmart from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Until Saturday, April 13th. Kmart was kind enough to invite us to team up and to build awareness to all sectors.
We're invited here by Kmart for this community preparedness outreach, and we always state with FEMA that recovery, preparedness, and response always works best when they are federally coordinated, state or territorially managed, and locally executed.
What we're doing today is a community education outreach effort to ensure that individuals and homeowners have access to that information, whether they're rebuilding their house, doing repairs on things like doors, windows, shutters, or it could be rooftop solar installation. We just want to ensure that people have those resources.
Some of the issues we've noticed in our response to the initial disasters of Irma and Maria were that people were missing their items, whether it be the durable medical equipment or they had damaged items. So what we try to tell our individuals with disabilities is to make sure that you try to safeguard your items, because the less amount of damage you have, the faster your recovery can be with all the other things.
We are asking the general public to basically subscribe to Alert VI for real-time emergencies. You can subscribe at vitema.vi.gov to keep up with the latest emergencies.
Local nonprofits are also trying to make sure residents are prepared for any disaster. One of them is the St. Thomas Recovery Team, a nonprofit that grew after the 2017 hurricanes that now wants to make sure St. Thomas families, especially those with school-age children, are disaster ready. They've organized an 8-week program called Storm Strong, and they've extended the deadline for that to Tuesday, April 16th. Here's more from St. Thomas Recovery Team CEO Imani Daniel.
The university and the St. Thomas Recovery Team are partnering for this program. So it's actually a NOAA-sponsored grant, and what we are doing is taking 20 families and hoping to instill a culture of preparedness and resilience in response to lots of different natural disasters, but specifically hurricanes. We're going to do it every year. So we're going to take 20 families this year from St. Thomas and work with them over an 8-week period. They will also have an opportunity to develop community transfer projects. So and part of it, we learn about natural hazards and then ways that we identify risk and then come up with cool solutions to mitigate those risks. And so these community transfer projects will be an opportunity for the families to really dig in and come up with projects that are personally valuable to them that help meet some of those community needs that they're helping us identify.
Again, that deadline is April 16th. You can go to www.usvistormstrong.org for more information. On St. Croix, the 5th annual Virgin Islands Literary Festival and Book Fair began today and will continue until Saturday, April 13th. This year's theme is Musings and Metaphors, Revelations, Evolution, and Devolution. The festival features workshops, readings, and more with authors from the Caribbean and beyond, including local authors Cadwell Turnbull and Richard Georges. The keynote speaker is Dang Adut, a defense lawyer and refugee advocate from Australia, who is also a former child soldier from South Sudan. While the main events will be held at UVI's Albert Sheen campus, there will be other venues at the Caribbean Museum for the Arts, for example, Government House and Undercover Books in Christiansted.
Is the beginning of the school tours, where the authors go into the different schools and give workshops on a one-on-one basis with students so they can learn how to publish, how to write how to create some literary pieces, and anything they might want to ask an author for their experience in their years. Then Friday is the beginning of the workshops. We have the keynote address by Deng Adut. We have comments from the Governor of the Virgin Islands, the President of UVI, I believe the Commissioner of Tourism will be there as well, and that's the beginning of workshops. And then Friday evening, there's the book bacchanal at the Caribbean Museum Center for Arts in Frederiksted, where the authors will be reading pieces from their work. There will be cultural dance, music, some books will be sold, and it's a good fun time there as well. There will be additional workshops, and everyone can get a chance to meet and to get more information from authors in their craft.
Make sure you check it out. The month of April, like we mentioned earlier, is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, as well as Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month. And on Saturday, our local nonprofits who end up dealing and helping the victims of these crimes are taking to the streets in a bid to have their voices heard and draw attention to this problem. Here's more on that march.
The Awareness March for Child Abuse and Sexual Assault is on April 13th from Holy Family Church to Tutu Park Mall. And we are asking everyone out there to join us so we could raise awareness in our territory, because it is really becoming an epidemic. And with everybody involved, we can make a big difference in our community.
Well, if you want to take part in a fun outdoor activity for a great cause, head on over to the St. Thomas East End Reserve on Saturday for the Great Mangrove Cleanup. The event is on its second year and it's still taking on the challenge of cleaning up one of the most important ecosystems in the territory. Organizer Christina Edwards stopped by to give us the details.
We went in last year. It was pretty soon after the storms. There was a lot of debris back there, and we had an amazing response with volunteers. We had a huge group from All Hands and Hearts. We had schools, we had UVI students, we had general public coming out to help clean up the mangroves, which are so important to our island's healthy ecosystem. We break off into different teams, so you can really choose your comfort level for cleaning. The cleanup is officially from 9 to 12. And we do have shuttles running from the BCB parking lot, so you don't have to worry about parking on the side of the road or anything. But once you get there, we'll have a kayak team going out to clean the mangroves and the shoreline around the ecotours area, and that's in the St. Thomas East End Reserve. But we also have a land-based team. So if you're not into kayaking, if it's too hot, you don't want to be out in the sun, or you just want to focus on the land side, you can walk around within that area, and there is a ton of stuff to clean. So absolutely choosing your area, choosing your comfort level, and also how long you clean. We collected over 3,000 pounds of trash last year, and we really expect it to be about the same, hopefully less. And to see the volunteers coming in with their buckets of trash is really rewarding as well. And to see the data afterwards is very rewarding.
That website is www.viepscore.org. Well, Carnival is just around the corner, and we promise to have highlights for you from each event. In the meantime, here's what you can look forward to in the coming weeks. On Sunday, head on over to UVI Sports and Fitness Center for the Vitamalt Prince and Princess selection. That's happening at 5 p.m. and again, that's Sunday, April 14th. The following weekend, it's the Queen Show. Make sure you show your support for your favorite Carnival Queen contestants. That's happening Saturday, April 20th at 8 p.m. also at the UVI Sports and Fitness Center. And then on Sunday, April 21st, dress up your kids and put them in the Toddlers Derby on Easter Sunday Fun Day. We'll update you on the location for that, but it starts at 4 p.m. on the 21st, and they'll be looking for the next best dressed as a doll. Tune in to News 2. We'll have more events for you throughout the month. Stick around, your News 2 AccuWeather forecast. That's coming up next.
Good evening. We're going to continue to track out the chance for some showers across the Virgin Islands. As you can see on your satellite here, there's a lot of moisture back into the Atlantic, extending into the Bahamas, even getting down to Central America. This is a front that will continue to press its way to the east. It will bring some impacts to us in terms of disturbing our trade flow, but in terms of precipitation, not going to see too much from that disturbance out towards our west. Taking a closer look, clouds around the region, a patch of moisture that will continue to track its way into Puerto Rico as we head through the night. We'll be looking at a low of 77, partly cloudy skies, and still can't rule out a possibility of a shower as we continue through this evening. Showers in place for tomorrow in St. John with a high of 85, topping off in the mid-80s as well for St. Thomas. Not going to be talking about any extensive or continuous showers for tomorrow's forecast in St. Croix with a high of 87. Now for your marine forecast, as we look onto the Atlantic side, waves for your Thursday going to be 2 to 4 feet. Winds out of the southeast 10 to 15 knots. We'll continue to see these pick on up as we move into the late week and into your weekend. Trades will reestablish themselves. Also looking at winds out of the southeast 10 to 15 knots on the Caribbean side. Waves 3 to 5 feet. So a tad bit elevated on the Caribbean side. And want to be a bit cautious as you definitely head out into those open waters. Now as we move into your extended forecast, once again tomorrow in the mid 80s, remaining in the mid to upper 80s for the next several days. Partly sunny skies, so that's not going to change. What we will be keeping an eye on is our wind pattern changing. So as that cold front approaches, trades will be disturbed for tomorrow and Friday, and we'll continue to see those pick back up into your Saturday, with showers still going to be on the brief and spotty side for the end of the weekend and early next week. So at this point in time, no big systems coming our way, keeping our typical trade flow in place, or bit disruptive, but still bringing the spotty shower potential.
Thank you for that. When we come back, Alex Randall's news and comments. Don't go away.
You're watching News 2. This is Alex Randall with news and comment. To hurricane or not to hurricane? That's the question. You know, if we start talking about Melissa and Nestor, it's pretty bad hurricane season. And if we get to Van and Wendy, it'll be awful. We have another forecast in, this time from AccuWeather. They say we'll have 5 to 7 hurricanes. That's less than last year. That's the good news. There may be as many as 15 tropical storms. Now, let's hope we don't get past Gabriella. She'd be our 7th storm. And if we're talking about Olga, she's 15. Pablo, he's 16. And if we get to Wendy, it's a bad season. LaVon Bell is a finalist. Hearty congratulations to St. Croix artist LaVon Bell. A couple of years ago, people in the States woke up and realized that most of the statues in towns were men. No surprise there, mostly soldiers. You know, guys on horseback with rifles and swords. There was an awakening that there should be some statuary to honor women. And New York City decided to put a statue of a woman in each borough. In Brooklyn, they're going to honor Shirley Chisholm. She's the first African-American woman to run for president. And in the competition for the artist to develop the statue, our own local LaVon Bell is one of the 5 finalists. Her statue embodies a famous quote from Shirley Chisholm that says, quote, "If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair," end of quote. This is not artist LaVon Bell's first sculpture success. She created the statue that sits in Denmark of Queen Mary. Department of Education's got a problem with teachers. They got a problem. Teachers are leaving. 91 in the last 5 months, another 54 of them out sick. We have more than 10,000 students and too few teachers. The schools right now need 21 elementary education teachers, 14 special education teachers, 13 vocational education teachers, 10 math teachers. And it's not just the teachers. Librarians, nurses, support staff, they're all needed. The problem is poor pay and the high cost of living. It squeezes teachers and makes it hard to find new ones. And of course, teaching in those modular units is not a source of joy among the teachers. One of the reasons we lose teachers is our government employee retirement system. It's a big deduction from everyone's salary. And very few government employees think they're ever going to see all their money back again. Will flooding in Nada ever end? Yes, eventually. Maybe the flooding in Nada will finally come to an end. The Army Corps of Engineers is dusting off their 20-year-old plan for what comes after the bridge to nowhere. Now you know that the bridge is now in use and they can begin to take the flood mitigation steps that were planned way back when that bridge was built. There's plans for a 460-foot long U-shaped channel, a 170-foot long development site on the wall. There'll be a wall along the channel, a 260-foot long levee on the north side of Nada, all to keep the village dry. But like all bureaucracy, this is going to take time. The engineer's report's due in July, then 2 years to do the design and survey. Then they have to buy the land, then 2 or 3 years of construction. They may be done by 2023, maybe 2024. Sure hope it doesn't rain too much between now and then, or Nada will flood while the bureaucracy is muddling along. Good work to the fire service. We always appreciate it when our government professionals in the fire service and police take fresh training. Fire Service Director Darrell George had the fire service guys out in force learning how to perform a rescue if someone fell off a cliff and had to be hoisted out. Well, we don't have a cliff around, so they used Schneider Hospital as their cliff. And they got Stefan Todman to be the victim. Hey, wait a second, that Stefan Todman's one of my students at the university. Fortunately, he knows his communication skills and his cry for help was heard. Thanks for watching. This is Alex Randall with News and Comment. Now back to April.
Thank you for that, Alex. And that's it for our show tonight. We're live on Facebook and YouTube Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. and on Via Channel 4 and 504. Make sure you follow us on social media, tag us on stories you want to see on the news, or you can email us at newsdirector@tv2.vi. Thanks again for joining us on News 2. I'm April Knight. We'll see you next time.